The massive screen in the United Earth Council chamber showed Supreme Commander He-Jin's face. His purple skin glowed under the lights of his command ship. His black eyes stared at the 100 council members who had gathered for this emergency meeting. Humans, He-Jin said, his voice deep and clear. Your kind has spread too far, too fast. The galactic hegemony cannot allow this to continue. Chairwoman Sun Me stood up from her seat. Her gray hair was tied back neatly, and her blue council uniform showed her high rank. Supreme Commander, humans have followed all space laws. We have not broken any rules. He-Jin smiled, but it wasn't friendly. Laws? Yes, but you humans are different, unpredictable, dangerous. In 50 years, you have colonized 20 planets. It took other races centuries to do the same. The council chamber stayed quiet. Everyone knew this was true. Humans had moved quickly into space after they discovered faster-than-light travel. They had built colonies, made new homes, and learned to survive anywhere they went. We work hard, Sun Me said. We adapt. That is not a crime. No, He-Jin agreed. But it is a threat. The hegemony has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. We keep peace. We keep order. Your chaos, your speed of growth, it threatens everything. Sun Me's hands gripped the edge of her desk. What do you want from us? A challenge. He-Jin's image grew larger on the screen. This is our offer, a trial by combat. The hegemony will send our 5 greatest warriors. You will send your champions to face them. Whispers filled the council chamber. Everyone knew about the hegemony's warriors. They were living legends, each one powerful enough to defeat entire armies. And if we refuse? Sun Me asked, though she already knew the answer. Then you surrender all your colonies now. He-Jin's voice was cold. Return to Earth. Stay there. The hegemony will take control of your other worlds. The whispers turned to angry shouts. Humans had worked too hard, come too far, to give up their colonies. How many champions can we send? Sun Me asked. He-Jin's smile grew wider. Send as many as you wish. Send your armies if you want. Our 5 warriors will defeat them all. The council erupted in chaos. Some members stood up, shouting about war. Others called for immediate surrender. A few just sat there, too shocked to speak. But then a quiet voice cut through the noise. 1. Everyone turned. At the back of the chamber stood a man in a simple gray uniform. He wasn't tall or muscular. His black hair was starting to show gray. He looked ordinary in every way. Colonel Jai-Ho Park, Sun Me said, recognizing him. What do you mean? 1. Jai-Ho walked forward slowly. His footsteps echoed in the now silent chamber. Send one. Send me. He-Jin laughed. The sound boomed through the speakers. 1 human, against our 5 greatest warriors. Yes. Jai-Ho's voice stayed quiet, but everyone could hear him. 1 is enough. You insult us, He-Jin growled. You mock this challenge. No, Jai-Ho looked straight at the screen. I respect it. I accept it. 1 human against your 5 warriors. He-Jin stared at Jai-Ho for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Very well. In 7 days, our warriors will meet at the battle arena of Proxima Centauri. There we will see if 1 human is truly enough. The screen went dark. The council chamber stayed quiet for a few seconds. Then everyone started talking at once. Sun Me walked up to Jai-Ho. Are you sure about this, Colonel? Jai-Ho nodded. They're sending their greatest warriors. We only need to send their worst nightmare. As he walked out of the chamber, someone whispered, the ghost. The nickname spread through the room like a chill wind. Everyone had heard stories about the ghost of Mars, the soldier who had ended the Mars insurgency alone. The hegemony was sending their greatest warriors. Humans were sending 1. And that would be more than enough. Colonel Jai-Ho Park sat alone in his small office on Mars Base 1. The red planet's dust covered the window, making the sunset outside look even more orange than usual. On his desk, a simple hologram showed the files of the Hegemony's 5 warriors. A soft blue light filled the room as his AI assistant came online. "Good evening, Colonel," Hannah said. Her voice was calm and clear. "The Council has approved your request. You are now Earth's official champion." Jai-Ho nodded, but didn't look away from the warrior files. "How many people think this is a mistake, Hannah?" According to public data, 82% of Earth's population believes sending one person is a poor decision. The most common phrase used is suicide mission. He finally looked up. "And what do you think?" Hannah's blue light flickered slightly. "I have analyzed your combat record from the Mars insurgency. I also studied all available data on the Hegemony warriors. The probability of success is low. Numbers aren't everything," Jai-Ho said quietly. A knock on his door interrupted them. Chairwoman Sun Mai walked in, looking tired. She had dark circles under her eyes, and her uniform was wrinkled. She had clearly been working without rest since the challenge. "Colonel Park," she said, sitting down across from him. "The military council wants me to change your mind. They want to send our best special forces team instead." Jai-Ho shook his head. "More fighters won't help. The Hegemony warriors are too strong for a direct fight." "Then why do you think you can win alone?" Jai-Ho stood up and walked to the dusty window. "During the Mars insurgency, I was sent to stop a rebel army of 500 soldiers. Do you know how I did it?" Sun Mai shook her head. "I didn't fight them. I studied them. For 3 weeks, I watched their patterns, their habits, their weaknesses. Then, in one night, I turned their fears and mistakes against them. By morning, they had surrendered. No battles. No deaths. That's why they call you the Ghost," Sun Mai said softly. Jai-Ho turned back to her. "The Hegemony is proud. Their warriors are used to showing their power, to being the strongest. But strength isn't everything. Sometimes, the quiet person in the room is the most dangerous." Sun Mai stood up slowly. "You have 6 days to prepare. What do you need?" "Access to all records we have on Hegemony fighting styles." And he paused. "I need the old training room in the basement. The one with 0 gravity." "Done," Sun Mai said. She walked to the door but stopped. "Colonel, 20 billion humans are counting on you." After she left, Hannah's blue light grew brighter. "Shall we begin analyzing the warrior files, Colonel?" Jai-Ho sat back down at his desk. "Yes. Start with Sanguk the Destroyer. Show me every fight he's ever lost." According to records, he has never lost a fight. Jai-Ho smiled slightly. "Then show me every fight where he almost lost. Everyone has weakness, Hannah. We just have to find them." As Mars's sun set outside, Jai-Ho started his preparation. The Hegemony warriors would train with their weapons, show off their powers, and prepare for glory. Jai-Ho would study. He would plan. He would find every crack in their armor, every flaw in their style. Because in 6 days, he wouldn't face them as a warrior. He would face them as the Ghost. And ghosts didn't need to be stronger. They just needed to be smarter. The great hull of the Hegemony battle cruiser gleamed with golden light. Supreme Commander He-Jin stood on a raised platform, looking down at his 5 chosen warriors. Behind him, a massive window showed the stars and the red dot of Mars in the distance. "Tomorrow," He-Jin said, his voice echoing in the hall, "you will show humanity their place in our galaxy." The 5 warriors stood in a perfect line. Each one was famous across 100 worlds. Each one had won countless battles. But they were all very different. Sanguk the Destroyer stepped forward first. He was 3 meters tall, his purple skin covered in battle scars. The heavy gravity suit he wore made the floor crack under his feet. "I will break their champion like a twig," he said, his voice deep like thunder. Next to him, Yun-Hee the Swift seemed to float rather than stand. Her silver skin shimmered as she moved, faster than normal eyes could follow. "They will not even see me coming," she whispered, her words barely reaching the walls before she finished speaking. Taiwan the Unbreakable stood silent in his famous black armor. No weapon had ever scratched it. No enemy had ever found a way past his defense. He didn't speak, but he nodded slowly, making his point clear. Do Hyun, the Mindbreaker, smiled, his eyes glowing with purple energy. Small objects around him floated in the air, moved by his mental powers. Their champion's mind will break before their body, he said softly. Finally, Jinwoo the Supreme stepped forward. He was their leader, the most feared warrior in 5 galaxies. Unlike the others, he looked almost normal, but everyone knew that was a lie. Supreme Commander, he said, bowing slightly, we will not fail. Hajin nodded. Our scouts report that the human, this Colonel Park, has spent the last 6 days in a training room. Alone. The warriors laughed, all except Jinwoo. Tell us about him, Jinwoo said quietly. Hajin waved his hand, and a hologram appeared. It showed Jaho Park walking down a hallway. He looked ordinary, weak. They call him the Ghost, Hajin said. He won some battles on Mars. Nothing important. Then why did they choose him? Jinwoo asked. Humans are strange, Hajin said. Perhaps they have already accepted defeat. The warriors started to leave the hall, ready to rest before tomorrow's battle. But Jinwoo stayed behind, staring at the hologram of Jaho. Computer, he said softly, show me the records of the Mars insurgency. The computer beeped. Those records are sealed. Jinwoo frowned. By whose order? By order of Colonel Jaho Park. In the quiet hall, Jinwoo watched the hologram of the ordinary-looking human. Something wasn't right. Why would a simple soldier have the power to seal battle records? What was hidden in those files? For the first time in many years, Jinwoo felt something strange in his chest. It was doubt. Back on Mars Base 1, Jaho sat in the dark training room. His eyes were closed. Hana's blue light was the only brightness in the room. Colonel, she said, I have finished analyzing all available data on the 5 warriors. Jaho opened his eyes. Tell me. They are exactly what we expected. Powerful, proud, famous. Hana paused. They all have one thing in common. What's that? They always fight at full strength. They never hold back. They never hide their power. Jaho smiled slightly. Then they've never learned the most important lesson of battle. What lesson is that, Colonel? He stood up, ready for his last night of preparation. Sometimes, the strongest weapon is the one your enemy doesn't know you have. Tomorrow, the 5 greatest warriors in the galaxy would face one human. But first, they would have to find him. The last day before the battle moved quickly. On the Hegemony battle cruiser, the 5 warriors prepared in their own ways. Sanguk the destroyer spent hours in the ship's training room. He broke metal walls with his fists and crushed steel beams like paper. The sound of his practice echoed through the whole ship. Every crew member could hear his power. Yunhee the Swift ran through the ship's halls so fast that security cameras only caught blurs of silver. She practiced her famous death strikes, moves so quick that most enemies died before they knew she was there. Taiwan the Unbreakable stood still in his room, letting practice drones fire their strongest weapons at his armor. Not even one scratch appeared on the black metal. The drones finally ran out of power, but Taiwan hadn't moved an inch. Do-hyun, the Mindbreaker, floated in his meditation chamber, surrounded by floating objects. His mental powers had grown so strong that he could read thoughts from across a room. He smiled as he planned how he would break the human's mind. But Jinwoo the Supreme spent his time differently. He sat at a computer screen, trying again and again to access the sealed Mars insurgency files. Computer, he said for the 100th time, show me any public information about the ghost. The computer beeped. Searching. Only one video file found. Jinwoo sat up straight. Finally. Play it. The screen showed a dark room on Mars. Rebel soldiers ran back and forth, shouting in panic. "He's here," one yelled. "The ghost is here." Then the lights went out. When they came back on 3 seconds later, 10 rebels lay on the ground, unconscious. But no one else was there. The video ended. Jinwoo sat back in his chair. That was not the fighting style of a normal soldier. That was something else. Something dangerous. Meanwhile, on Mars Base 1, Jaeho's preparation room was quiet. He sat cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed. Hana's blue light filled the room softly. "Colonel," she said, "would you like to review the warrior files one more time?" "No," Jaeho said quietly. "I know them now. Every move they like to use, every way they show their power, every mistake they make because they think they're unbeatable. The battle arena will be ready in 12 hours. It's an asteroid they've turned into a fighting ground. There will be areas of zero gravity, areas of high gravity, and many places to hide." Jaeho nodded. "Perfect." The door opened, and Chairwoman Sunma walked in. She looked at the quiet room in surprise. No weapons, no armor, no signs of training or preparation. "Colonel," she said, "the whole solar system will be watching tomorrow. Are you ready?" Jaeho opened his eyes. "Tell me, Chairwoman, what do you see when you look at me?" Sunma looked at him carefully. "I see a normal man. Nothing special." "Good." Jaeho stood up slowly. "That's exactly what they'll see too. And that's why I'll win." "I don't understand." "The greatest warrior isn't the strongest, or the fastest, or the most powerful," Jaeho said. "The greatest warrior is the one who looks so normal that no one sees the danger until it's too late." Sunma watched him for a long moment. Then she understood. For 6 days, everyone thought Jaeho was preparing for battle. But the truth was, he had been preparing his whole life. Tomorrow, the 5 greatest warriors in the galaxy would learn why Earth only sent one man, and why that man was called the Ghost. The battle arena was a marvel of engineering. The hegemony had hollowed out an asteroid and turned it into the perfect fighting ground. Massive viewing screens floated around it, ready to show the combat to billions of viewers across the galaxy. Inside the arena's main entrance, Jaeho Park stood alone. He wore standard gray combat armor. Nothing special, just basic protection. His only weapons were a simple laser pistol and a combat knife. Even his boots were standard issue. "Colonel." Hana's voice came through his helmet comm. "Arena scan complete. They've created different gravity zones throughout the structure. Some areas have no gravity. Others have gravity 3 times stronger than Earth's." Jaeho nodded. "Just like we expected." "Have they announced the rules?" "Yes. The battle ends when all fighters on one side are unable to continue. No killing is allowed, but any other fighting method is acceptable." Across the arena, in a much larger entrance, the 5 hegemony warriors prepared. Their weapons and armor gleamed under the bright lights. They looked like legends come to life. Supreme Commander Heijin's voice boomed through the arena. "Today we will show humanity their place in the galaxy. Our 5 greatest warriors against their one champion." The crowds in the viewing stations cheered. Billions more watched on screens across countless worlds. Heijin continued. "The battle will begin in 5 minutes. Warriors, take your positions." Jaeho watched as the 5 warriors spread out into the arena. Sang-uk stomped forward, making the ground shake. Yun-hee disappeared in a blur of silver. Tai-1 moved to high ground, his black armor reflecting no light. Do-hyun floated up to a middle level, his eyes glowing purple. Jinwoo stood in the center, waiting. "Colonel," Hana said quietly, "they're positioning themselves exactly as you predicted. They plan to attack from all sides." Jaeho checked his armor seals one last time. "Good. Are you ready?" "Yes. All arena systems are accessible. I can change gravity zones on your command." From the central platform, Jinwoo called out, "Human, face us with honor. Come out and fight." Jaeho took one step forward, then stopped. In his helmet, he smiled slightly. Hana, kill the lights. The arena went completely dark. The warriors tensed, ready for battle. But nothing happened. Where is he? Sanguk's voice boomed. I don't sense his mind, Du Hyun said, sounding worried. Lights. Jin Woo commanded. The lights came back on. Jai-ho was gone. In the control room, Ho Jin stood up angrily. What's happening? Where is the human? Technicians checked their screens. Sir, he's in the arena. But we can't track him. The sensors show him everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Down in the arena, Jin Woo felt something he hadn't felt in centuries. Fear. Because now he understood what the sealed Mars files meant, why they called this human the Ghost. The 5 greatest warriors in the galaxy had come ready for a battle. But this wouldn't be a battle. This would be a hunt. And they were not the hunters. The 5 warriors stood in the arena, weapons ready. 1 minute passed. Then 5. Then 10. The silence grew heavy. This is ridiculous, Sanguk growled. He's hiding like a coward. Quiet, Jin Woo ordered. Listen. They heard nothing. The arena was completely silent. Then Yunhee screamed. The other warriors turned toward the sound. The silver-skinned warrior lay on the ground, unconscious. No one had seen what happened. No one had heard anything except her scream. Impossible, Du Hyun whispered. She's the fastest warrior in the galaxy. No one can catch her. Spread out, Jin Woo commanded, but stay within sight of each other. They moved carefully, watching every shadow. Du Hyun floated higher, his mental powers searching for any trace of thought. Sanguk's heavy footsteps echoed through the arena. Taiwan stood like a statue in his black armor. Then the gravity changed. In one section of the arena, gravity disappeared completely. Sanguk, caught by surprise, floated up from the ground. His heavy gravity suit, designed to make him stronger, now made him helpless. I can't move, he shouted. A shadow moved behind him. There was a soft click, and Sanguk's suit powered down. The mighty warrior floated helplessly in zero gravity. Show yourself, Jin Woo demanded. Jai-ho's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Why? This is working much better. Du Hyun's eyes glowed brighter. I can't find his mind. It's like he's not even here. Because I'm not, Jai-ho's voice answered. I'm everywhere. The gravity changed again. This time, it increased in one small area. Du Hyun dropped from the air like a stone, caught off guard by the sudden weight. Before he could recover, something struck the back of his neck. His eyes stopped glowing, and he lay still. 3 minutes, Hana's voice said in Jai-ho's helmet. 3 warriors disabled. All vital signs stable. Jin Woo and Taiwan stood back to back. Jin Woo held his energy sword ready. Taiwan's black armor gleamed under the lights. Your tricks won't work on us, Jin Woo said calmly. Taiwan's armor is unbreakable, and I can counter any attack you try. Really? Jai-ho's voice asked. Then why are you sweating? Jin Woo realized he was right. For the first time in centuries, he felt afraid. This wasn't a battle. This was something else. This was... A soft noise made him spin around. Taiwan was gone. What did you do? Jin Woo shouted. Look up. Jin Woo looked. High above, in a zero-gravity zone, Taiwan floated. His unbreakable armor had become his prison. He couldn't move, couldn't fight, couldn't do anything but float. Now Jin Woo stood alone. I studied you all, Jai-ho's voice said quietly. Sanguk depends on his gravity suit. Yunhee never watches her back because she thinks she's too fast to catch. Du Hyun can't fight in high gravity, and To-won's armor is so heavy that in zero gravity, it's useless. Jin Woo turned slowly, trying to find the source of the voice. And what did you learn about me? Something very important, Jai-ho answered. Then he appeared, standing right in front of Jinwoo. I learned that you are about to make a big mistake. Jinwoo raised his sword and smiled. Finally, a real fight. That was his mistake. Jinwoo's energy sword glowed bright blue as he swung it at Jiho. But his blade cut through empty air. Jiho had already moved. Stop disappearing, Jinwoo shouted. Fight me properly. Jiho's voice came from behind him. Why should I fight your way? Jinwoo spun and attacked again. Again, he hit nothing. You're just proving my point, Jiho said quietly. You think there's only one way to fight. The direct way. The powerful way. Your way. Jinwoo's sword flashed again and again, each strike perfect, each movement exact. But he couldn't hit what he couldn't find. In the control room, Supreme Commander He-jin watched in anger. What is happening? Jinwoo is the greatest warrior in 5 galaxies. How can he not hit one human? The technicians checked their screens. Sir, the human's movement patterns make no sense. It's like he's moving between the gaps in our sensors. Down in the arena, Jinwoo stopped attacking. He stood still, breathing hard. You mock our challenge, he said. This is not how warriors fight. Jiho appeared several meters away. You're right. This is how soldiers fight. Warriors fight for glory. Soldiers fight to win. Jinwoo raised his sword again, but this time, Jiho didn't disappear. Instead, he spoke calmly. Do you know why I studied you all so carefully? To find our weaknesses, Jinwoo answered. No, to find your strengths. Jiho took one step forward. Your perfect sword work. Sang-uk's powerful strikes. Yunhee's speed. Taiwan's defense. Do-hyun's mental powers. You're all so strong that you never learned an important lesson. What lesson? The stronger you are, the harder you fall. Suddenly, the gravity changed. Jinwoo felt himself become lighter, then heavier, then lighter again. The changing forces made it impossible to keep his balance. Gravity controls restored, Hana's voice said, in Jiho's helmet. Ready on your mark. Jiho watched as Jinwoo struggled to stand straight. You trained all your life to be the perfect warrior, but you never trained for this. For having your strength used against you. For fighting when everything you know works against you. Jinwoo tried to step forward, but the gravity shifted again. He stumbled. That's why Earth sent me, Jiho continued. Not because I'm the strongest, but because I know that strength isn't everything. The gravity shifted one final time. Jinwoo fell to his knees, his perfect balance destroyed by the changing forces. Jiho walked up to him slowly. The Ghost of Mars wasn't a title. It was a lesson. The most dangerous enemy isn't the one who stands and fights. It's the one who makes your own power defeat you. Jinwoo looked up at the ordinary man in the simple gray armor. Now he understood. The sealed files, the quiet preparation, the strange tactics. It all made sense. You never planned to fight us, he said. No, Jiho agreed. I planned to beat you. A quick strike to the back of Jinwoo's neck, and it was over. The greatest warrior in 5 galaxies fell unconscious. In his helmet, Jiho heard Hana's voice. All 5 warriors disabled. Battle complete. Time elapsed, 12 minutes, 17 seconds. Above them, the viewing screen showed the result to billions of watching eyes. The Empire had sent their greatest warriors. Humans had sent one. And the Ghost had won. Supreme Commander He-jin stood in the center of the United Earth Council chamber. This time, he was there in person. His purple skin looked paler than usual. According to our ancient laws, He-jin said, his voice heavy, the hegemony accepts humanity's right to continue their expansion into space. We will not interfere with your colonies. Chairwoman Sun Li nodded. Thank you, Supreme Commander. We accept your acknowledgement. In the back of the chamber, Jiho Park stood quietly. He still wore his simple gray uniform. Nothing about him suggested that he had just defeated the 5 greatest warriors in the galaxy. He-jin turned to look at him. Colonel Park. My warriors have asked to speak with you. Will you permit it? Jai-Ho nodded and walked forward. The 5 warriors entered the chamber. They moved differently now. The arrogance was gone from their steps. Jin Wu stepped forward first. We came to learn, he said simply. There is nothing to teach, Jai-Ho replied. You already know how to fight. You just forgot something important. What did we forget? Yun-He asked. That being strong isn't enough. Being fast isn't enough. Being unbeatable isn't enough. Jai-Ho looked at each warrior in turn. The greatest weapon is the one your enemy never sees coming. Sang-Uk nodded slowly. The quiet warrior in simple armor. The one who looks ordinary, Ta-Wan added. The ghost who strikes without being seen, Du-Hyun finished. A Jin watched this exchange with surprise. You've changed them, he said to Jai-Ho. In all my years, I've never seen them like this. I didn't change them, Jai-Ho said. I reminded them. Every great warrior starts as a simple soldier. They just forgot that along the way. After the warriors left, Sun Mai walked up to Jai-Ho. The president wants to give you a medal. There will be ceremonies, parades. No, Jai-Ho said quietly. I need to get back to Mars. I have a class to teach tomorrow. A class? Sun Mai looked surprised. But you just saved humanity's future in space. Surely the class can wait. Jai-Ho smiled slightly. The class is more important. Tomorrow's soldiers need to learn what the hegemony's warriors forgot. That victory doesn't always come from being the strongest. The next day, Jai-Ho stood in front of his class at the Mars Combat Academy. 20 young cadets looked at him with wide eyes. They had all watched the battle. Yesterday, he said, the galaxy learned something about humanity. They learned that we don't win because we're strongest. We win because we're smartest. We win because we adapt. We win because we understand that looking ordinary can be the greatest strength of all. One cadet raised her hand. Sir, is that why Earth only sent one person? To teach them this lesson. Jai-Ho looked out the window at the red Martian desert. No, Earth sent one person because that's all we needed. Not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most powerful. Just the right person for the right job. He turned back to his class. Remember that. Because someday you might be the one person Earth needs. And on that day, being ordinary might be the most extraordinary thing you can be. In his office at the Hegemony headquarters, Supreme Commander He Jin added a new rule to the ancient laws. Never underestimate a quiet human in simple armor. And somewhere in the galaxy, people still whisper about the day when the Empire sent their greatest warriors. And humans sent one. The ghost of Mars.